Foreign ownership is now formally documented and allowed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So in January this year, the law came into effect, setting in place the principles and the framework for foreign ownership. The mechanisms for doing so were subject to the implementing regulations. Now, on Wednesday night, that was released and published in the Government Gazette. Earlier that week, the maps, the geographical zones were released, identifying the areas that foreigners can invest into. What it means is that now foreigners can formally and legally and in a very clear and transparent manner register and acquire real estate in designated geographical zones in cities across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And those areas in which they can acquire real estate are specifically described with maps that are referenced so that you can, as a consumer, as a purchaser, an investor, clearly identify what's available and what's not. And you should be focusing on purchasing within those geographical areas themselves. As a foreign individual, you can buy in Mecca and Medina if you're Muslim. So these are two holy cities. They're very significant religious cities for the Muslim world. So ownership is confined to Muslim individuals. Foreign institutions, foreign investment funds, investment vehicles can also independently invest into investment opportunities in Mecca and Medina. It should be made clear that the rights of ownership are very broad, and so the portal that designates the maps for foreign ownership stipulates what type of ownership is available. And in Mecca and Medina, it's all manner of real estate right. So that includes freehold, the ownership, leasehold, usufruct rights, and it describes easements and so on. So you have a full bundle of legal rights available to acquire in Mecca and Medina. And that can be a 99-year usufruct, that can be a freehold title, so what we call sak mulkiya, unlimited ownership, and so on. Yes, in the geographical zones, so long as they're licensed by the Ministry of Investment and they have a company domiciled in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it can be foreign owned and it can invest, but in the designated geographical areas. So that's the important distinction here. They'll need to come into the geographical areas. Now, in 2021, the CMA released a circular that allowed real estate funds to invest in Mecca and Medina and have unit holders that were non-Saudis, so foreign unit holders. In January this year, the CMA released an updated circular clarifying the position following the implementation of the new law, or the enactment of the new law. And one important element of that is that acquisition by a fund must be in compliance with the new law and its implementing regulations. That law and its implementing regulations are now in effect, and they now clearly state that that investment must be within geographical areas. So while previously funds could invest anywhere in Mecca and Medina, now it's limited to the geographical areas. But the bundle of rights are still available to them. It can be freehold, leasehold, usufruct, and so on. So for the retail investor, there are three pathways available. So the individual that lives in the kingdom and has a normal iqama, let's say they're working and have a working visa, they're allowed to purchase a residential unit outside the geographical areas for their own use, or they can buy real estate anywhere in the geographical areas. Those that hold premium residency, that's a second pathway. Premium residency is an enhanced form of ownership, of residency right in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They can own anywhere in Saudi Arabia, and that's documented in the premium residency law, which the new foreign ownership law acknowledges and grandfathers effectively. It allows that right to continue, where it's a superior right. They can continue to have the right to own real estate anywhere in the kingdom, and in Mecca and Medina, anywhere, but on a 99-year usufruct basis, and they get what's called a sak intifa, a title to this 99-year usufruct right. That's outside the geographical areas. Inside the geographical areas, they can own real estate as well. Now, the third category is foreign individual that's outside the kingdom, that's not resident, and they're also able now to do so by registering for a digital ID. So the key defining feature between these three pathways is an identity, a digital identity. So most services in Saudi Arabia are all digitized now. And in order to participate in those services, you need a digital identifying number. As a resident, you'll have iqama or premium residency, which gives you an ID. It's a digital ID on the Absha platform. Similarly, as a foreigner investing into Saudi Arabia, you'll get a digital ID. You'll need to go online, apply, submit the relevant material, and then do your biometrics at the Saudi embassy in your country or in the relevant service provider that's been designated by the Saudi embassy. That then allows you to transact. So before, when you went to the notary public to register title, or now the new real estate registry, you need an identity. And it was only possible if you had Iqama or premium residency. Now, as a foreigner, you get your digital ID and you can transact. And that then allows you to buy in all the designated areas. Article 7 of the law specifically addresses this issue. Dependents and descendants of the original purchaser cannot themselves purchase. That effectively prevents a concentration of ownership within a group. There is that requirement and that restriction. In the geographical areas, multiple. There's no limitation. Outside, it's one if you're on a normal residency visa, an Iqama, one for your personal use. Previously, if you had a normal Iqama and you wanted to buy a residential property for yourself, you could under the old law. And you could do so anywhere, but it would have to be in a city that you lived in for a period of 3 years prior to the application. Why? Because you needed Ministry of Interior a clearance and no objection from them to allow you to buy in that city, and police clearance and so on, police check. So there was that, but now the law doesn't require any of that. And of course the restrictions in Mecca and Medina would still apply. So you'd need, if you wanted to buy there, you'd have to be Muslim. You could invest in a retail fund that was investing in Mecca and Medina. And so a number of the real estate funds that are undertaking development in Mecca and Medina, some of those units are offered online by some of the crowdfunding platforms. And so you could acquire units in a CMA regulated fund. But again, those funds would now, under the new CMA circular from January this year, would need to be investing in areas in the designated zones. In those circumstances, you would have bought the land at a time when it was permitted. Unless there's a subsequent prohibition, then that would continue to be permitted at that time. If it became expressly prohibited to own in that area, then you'd need to dispose of the property. But the law doesn't make any clear distinction or doesn't contemplate that scenario taking place. What we do anticipate is actually the opposite. What we anticipate is that the geographical zones will be expanded over time. So depending on the absorption and the popularity with the foreign investment community and foreign buyers, these are initial zones and initial areas. We expect those areas to expand. So a bit like what happened in Dubai, their initial zones available for foreign ownership were limited in number, and then they grew over time, and now they're significant in number and area. And we anticipate it to be similar. So now, for example, it's only been a few days since the implementing regulations were released, but a lot of those projects in Mecca that are designated for foreign ownership have immense interest. Some of them have sold out already. Some of them have waiting lists. When the stock and available inventory starts to deplete in the projects that have been designated, that's a very positive sign. And I do expect that the geographical maps will then be expanded to other projects. I know that there are many developers that would like to be on the map, that like to have their projects included, but we'll have to wait and see the success and the uptake of the existing projects and the existing areas, and then whether the zones are expanded. So I don't think it's going to be a contraction. From all indications, it's going to be an expansion in time.